Hello everyone, this is Mr. Hefner, and today we are going to do a short introduction to Maya Angelou's autobiography, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. It's going to quickly become apparent in this presentation that Maya Angelou was somebody who was absolutely extraordinary. The things she did, not only did she achieve things at the highest level, but she achieved things at the highest level in almost every area of her endeavors, as you'll see. She was born in 1928, and that's going to be important because it's going to help you figure out the setting for the autobiography that we're going to read today. You know that setting refers to both place and time. So she was born in 1928, and she's just a small child at the first part of the autobiography that we're reading, and so that would place it in the 1930s. She died fairly recently in 2014. In fact, if you look in the paper, the hard copy of your textbook, you'll see that there is no second date for her because she was still alive when the textbook was published. Our lesson essential question for today is going to be, what techniques does this author use to create point of view? Point of view is another term for perspective. Writers help us see things through eyes other than our own. And that's what point of view is. You know there's first person point of view and second person point of view and third person point of view. You've been talking about those since you were probably in elementary school. But it's more subtle than that. We can have a first person point of view that's very different from another first person point of view. And we're going to take a look at the techniques that Maya Angelou uses to help us see through her eyes. Now, Maya Angelou, like I said, was born in 1928. Her birth name was actually Marguerite Johnson, and she was born in St. Louis. She was educated in Arkansas and in California, but she did a myriad of things. She was a poet, a playwright. She starred on television and in movies. She was a director of stage shows and film. She was a journalist, a composer, a dancer, and a staunch civil rights worker. She's lectured all around the world, including at various American universities. I know she came to Berks County twice in her later years because I saw her both at Albright College and then a few years later at Kutztown University. She once had an administrative position at the University of Ghana. She had a book of collected poems, which was called Poems, and that was published in 1986, and it collects a lot of her work over the years. She's probably most celebrated for the autobiography, and we're going to read just a small part of that today. It's called I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. In 1992, when President Clinton was being elected, when President Clinton was being inaugurated for his first term, he invited Maya Angelou to come to Washington, and at that ceremony she read one of her famous poems, On the Pulse of Morning. The literary terms that we're going to pay attention to in this unit are narrator. You know what a narrator is. A narrator can sometimes be a character in a story. Sometimes the narrator is outside the story. Very often the narrator is in fact the author, but sometimes authors create another persona to be the narrator. So in this particular case, we know that it is an autobiography, and so the narrator is the author, and the author is Maya Angelou telling her own life story. And then setting, and as I mentioned just a little while ago, setting is both time and place. So this is set in the 1930s, and it's set in a small rural community called Stamps, Arkansas. All right, now this is the point at which you're going to stop this video, and you're going to go read the assigned excerpt from the autobiography. When you're finished, come back here, restart the video, and we'll go through the check for understanding questions with you. All right, are you back? You never left, did you? Go read that story. All right, are you back? Okay, we're going to go on now with the check for understanding questions. So here we have some sentence completions using the literary tools. You see a list, you see the sentences. Let's go through one by one. Number one, blank is the vantage point from which a story is told. Take a look at your list and decide which word best fits in that blank. Correct answer? Point of view, you got it right, I hope. Number 2, a story written by a person about his or her own life is what? Take a look at the list. Pick your word. And the correct answer is autobiography. Auto means self, bio means life, and graph means to write. So the word autobiography literally means self-life writing. How about number 3? Words such as I, we, and us are hints that the story's using what? Yes, first person point of view. Number 4, the blank of this selection is Stamps, Arkansas. We know the time is the 1930s. This is the other half. And your correct answer is setting. Again, remember that setting is both time and place. And the last one, number 5, the blank of a story may be a character in the story or someone outside the story. And that is narrator. In this case, the narrator is in the story and the narrator is the author. All right, let's take a look at a couple more questions. Some multiple choice for you. Bailey and Marguerite were sent from Long Beach, California to live in Stamps, Arkansas because their parents were divorcing. And if you remember from the story, the parents simply pinned the destination onto their jackets and sent them on a train, almost as if they were being shipped or mailed someplace. The children soon began calling their grandmother what? What name did they use to call their grandmother? That's right, they called her Mama. She essentially became their mother, even though she was their grandmother. Another setting question for you. The story takes place during the what decade? Now remember, we talked about when the author was born. That's correct, it's the 1930s. During certain times of the year, the store would be filled with people who did what for a living? They picked cotton. It was hard work. Bailey and Marguerite were of interest in stamps because yes, they had come from pretty far away. Most of the people in Stamps, Arkansas were never going to travel anywhere else. And so these children had seen more of the world than the people in Stamps ever were going to see. Bailey used to tell stories, but he would exaggerate these stories. Why did he do it? He was just trying to entertain the people. He liked getting a good laugh and he liked the attention they put on him. All right, let's finish up with some true and false questions. True or false? Number 1, Stamps, Arkansas was a wealthy town. That is false. Number 2, Marguerite and Bailey loved the store. You bet they did. It was a magical play place for them. How about number 3, Marguerite and Bailey's grandmother ran a successful business. That is absolutely true. If she went on Shark Tank, they would want to franchise her formula. Number 4, the townspeople resented Bailey and Marguerite. To resent is to hold a grudge against somebody, to dislike somebody. And that's false. The people of the town were fascinated by these small children and took care of them. And number 5, the cotton pickers loved their job and they were able to make ends meet with their wages. And that is absolutely false. Every morning they started out optimistic, and by evening they had never picked enough cotton, their backs were broken, their fingers were sore. Alright, that's it for this particular video. Be sure to look in Schoology to make sure there aren't any additional expectations of you. All assignments will show up in the upcoming column in Schoology. Thanks for staying with me. Have a great day.